Hello, you're watching Sightline on MNB World. Recently, Ulaanbaatar process meeting was held at the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar on 30th through 15th of September. And today we have invited to our studio organizers of this event, notably Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Mongolia, Diplomat, Chairman of the Blue Banner non-governmental organization, Mr. J.Enkhsaikhan Jargalsaikhan, and founder of Blue Banner NGO and chairman of the Global Partnership for Prevention of Armed Conflicts, Mr. Yoshioka Tatsuya. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for accepting our invitation. I would like to start our interview with the recently held Ulaanbaatar process meeting. And Mr. J.Enkhsaikhan, I would like to ask you, what was the main agenda of this meeting?
Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting us to share our views on the issues that we've been discussing. The Ulaanbaatar process was established in 2015 to promote regional peace, security, and dialogue, especially among the civil society organizations and some research think tanks and so on and so forth. This year we held the 8th meeting. Two meetings were held, of course, because of COVID was directly through this, but now it's the 8th one. And what we're trying to do, what we try to do is to look back first. What were we able to do in the past 8 years? What can we do better? And what we should do bearing in mind the prevailing international situation in general, as well as in Northeast Asia. We had representatives of a number of countries from East Asia, not only Northeast Asia, but East Asia, from the US, Russia, China, and so on. So all in all, 25 representatives representing civil society organizations and their views on these issues under discussion. Our main focus has been and still is the issue of the Korean Peninsula, because we believe it is one of the most hot topics that we should also deal with, especially raise the voice of civil society and see how we can work together, how we can work with our governments and with other NGOs of the region or globally. And one of the specifics of this year's session was that this year coincides with the 30th anniversary of Mongolia's nuclear weapon-free status policy. So it was, I think, a very productive meeting.
Mr. Yoshioka, the Ulaanbaatar process is organized by various civil organizations, including from Japan, from South Korea. And I know that you are founder of the Peace Boat non-governmental organization from Japan, which is also the 2017 Peace Nobel Prize laureate. Yeah. Could you tell us about activities of your operations?
Okay. My organization, Peace Boat, this is a quite unique organization. And actually, I established that this organization is in 1983. So next year is a 40 years anniversary, and to promote about the peace and sustainability and globally. And actually, we are organizing the peace educational cruise the 3 times in a year, and by quite a big ship, and approximately 1,000 people joining every time. So, and on board, we discuss a lot of the issues that exist in the world. Of course, peace and conflict prevention and security, nuclear issue, and also climate crisis and so on. So, but let's say this is a kind of the platform, the civil societies, international civil society exchange the opinion and try to find a solution. Yeah. So, and that's why this process, that the GPPAC process, and also that the Ulaanbaatar process is a very symbolic for us, the very actual discussion to find a solution for the future society. And especially now, we are facing a lot of crises. As you know, of course, that in Ukraine, and but at the same time that the climate crisis. So, and the nuclear weapon issue is so serious. So that's why I think always that the people become victim by this kind of the crisis or war. So that's why I think that it is very important the worldwide the people is start to connect each other and start to find a solution and present it to the decision makers.
Mr. Yoshioka, I know that you are also one of the founders of the Global Partnership for Prevention of Armed Conflicts. And can you tell us why did you decide to join this network?
Okay, the network started in 2003, and at that time is former the Secretary General of the United Nations, the Mr. Kofi Annan. He emphasized that now is the time from reaction to prevention. It means at that time is so many conflict also started to the from Yugoslavia or Afghanistan and so on. And but what he would like to say is now we have to spend more energy and more resource, not just a reaction after the conflict happened. Beforehand, we have to spend that our efforts to prevent the conflict and the armed conflict. So I'm so moved about that idea because now everybody knows once armed conflict or war started, how to stop.
Yes.
It is really difficult. So that's why beforehand, still, if there is no conflict, armed conflict, it is a lot easier to try to keep the dialogue and try to find a peaceful solution. So I think that is one of the really important initiative I felt. So and that's why we really start together and worldwide. And this is literally worldwide, 15 regions of the globally network, and we're initiating one of the region, Northeast Asia.
And of course, as Mr. Yoshioka has already said, there were regions, networks that should be working together.
Yeah.
So our network is known as Northeast Asian Network, and we were discussing with Yoshioka-san almost at that time, what do we do, and how every country or NGOs of those countries, can contribute. So we discussed about Mongolia. Mongolia is one of the countries which has more or less independent foreign policy, and it has no ties with alliance ties with other countries, has no border or territorial problems with its normals, and very important is that it also maintains good relations with both Koreas, which is very important. And the one thing that I should underline here is, unlike in other international relations, what we try to do is to represent not countries. If we do that, we'll have problems with two Koreas. One does not recognize the other. So what we represent is cities, Ulaanbaatar, Tokyo, Beijing, Pyongyang, and so on and so forth. That was the way in which we tried to avoid any political issues. Once we have agreed on that, we also agreed on the issues that should be discussed. Not everything that everyone believes is very important, but the basic issues. And we have agreed to focus on two issues first, and later on perhaps even develop that. First one was the question on the Korean Peninsula. It's very important, and with the representatives of two Korean NGOs is very, very important. And the second issue, also connected with the Korean Peninsula, is establishing a Northeast Asian nuclear weapon-free zone. And that's where we thought that we should start with that. And in 8 years, during 8 sessions, we've been discussing those issues with the participation of the representatives of two Koreas. That is very important. And when we have the possibility, we make a joint statement. We try to make a joint statement for others to know what our positions are. And we also try to communicate those ideas to our own governments. So this is how we started it.
You are the chair of the Blue Banner non-governmental organization that promotes the non-proliferation of the nuclear weapon. And this year marks the 30th anniversary of Mongolia's special status. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, yes, as you have said, 30 years ago, Mongolia, one of the independent foreign policy acts of Mongolia was to declare itself a nuclear weapon-free country. The reason is connected with history. We were part of the Soviet bloc, and we hosted Soviet bases and Soviet troops there. So after the end of the Cold War, we thought that since the Russians were withdrawing their troops, we should make sure that everybody would know that there will be no nuclear weapons in Mongolia, because during Cold War there were nuclear weapon-related structures and so on. And there was in 1969 there was a time that there might have been clashes between the Soviet Union and China, in which Mongolia would have been turned into irradiated grass. So that's why when President Ochilbat went to the General Assembly, he declared Mongolia a nuclear weapon-free zone. And the second thing is, he said that Mongolia will work to have that nuclear weapons zone internationally recognized and guaranteed. So the last 30 years has been years of our work with the non-nuclear weapon states as our supporters, and with the 5 nuclear weapon states, to make sure that they would provide us with such assurance that they will not use Mongolian territory in great power politics against each other.
Mongolia has a unique status, and do you think other minor countries are interested in adopting the same special status like Mongolia?
Yes, we had consultations with many countries. You see, the definition of nuclear weapon-free zones as of today is that there should be 2 or more countries to establish such a zone. One country, individual country, there is no rule to establish. So what we're trying to do is to reach out to other countries that, because of their geographical location or because of political or legal reasons, cannot be part of, let's say, group zones. And there are many countries. As far as we know, out of 193 United Nations members, 29 countries are not parties to military blocs or to nuclear weapon-free zones as such. So those we believe are the countries that we should work with, so that they will not be left out in the nuclear weapon-free world that we're trying to establish. We've been approached by many countries of that sort, and I believe that, that we might even have next year somewhere in Asia an international conference of those countries, potential single-state countries, that would we will start discussing this issue.
Talking about the news, a week ago, I guess, one country announced that it will be like nuclear weapon state. And is there a possibility to eradicate nuclear weapons in general, like?
Okay, that's of course.
Or
that's
abolish,
yeah, the very difficult question. But I think the important point is that we have to think without abolition of the nuclear weapon, I really believe that the human beings' future is very dark, I think. And now, after World War II, let's say end of the World War II, Japan had experienced Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
Yes.
I know what's happened there. I talked with a lot of the so-called survivors. That's totally terrible, unacceptable. So, but that's happened. So, and if we cannot, abolish the nuclear weapon, I think that the human future is a so danger. So that's why my way of thinking is the other way around. We have to abolish the nuclear weapon. Whatever the agreement or discussion or negotiation, and really we have to make a huge efforts for that. We should not give up. To give up abolition of nuclear weapon is we give up the future of human beings. That is my policy. So, and that's why Ulaanbaatar or Mongolia has a very symbolic meaning in a worldwide, especially about the nuclear weapon. So, and now we are actually we have the fear of the nuclear war because of the Ukrainian situation. So that's why in this moment, I think that this process is of course, that is a small process, however, including a very symbolic and powerful meaning. So that's why the EU, also European Union, also they're supporting the program very well. But at the same time, that's all this region, the civil society is really supporting us.
Okay, I will ask my last question. And in what direction do you think the Ulaanbaatar process will move in the future?
Yeah, I think that is this next 2 years is, as Ambassador said, it is very important time, I think. So because we don't have much time. So, and we really start to build that strong mutual understanding and also confidence building. And at the same time, we have to start to create a very concrete the action program, how we can go forward toward the abolition of the nuclear weapon. But on the other hand, there is a nuclear ban treaty also now started. And it is also important, the moment of the history. So that's why these two issues, the nuclear free zone and also nuclear ban treaty can make a synergy effect, and to create that atmosphere, international atmosphere, to make an effort toward the abolition of the nuclear weapon. I think that is I'm optimistic. The reason why is that now really people start to understand that the fear of the nuclear weapon. That's why.
What are the upcoming events and activities that will be organized from the Blue Banner NGO in the future?
We're working together with Ulaanbaatar process. So with Ulaanbaatar process, we'll be focusing on the immediate tasks that in 2023 there's going to be the 70th anniversary of the Armistice Treaty between on Korean issue. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that this message goes beyond, so that there will be more pressure for governments to discuss and sign a treaty that will end the war. The war has not yet ended at this stage. This is important. The second thing within the Ulaanbaatar process, what we're doing is to focus more on establishing nuclear weapon-free zone in Northeast Asia. It is very important, because the situation is not simple. But we, as representatives of NGOs, should raise awareness that time is running out. We should be more active and try to influence our governments, make researches, how to move the process further. As for Blue Banner itself, we, as I have already said, are trying to focus on the issue of single-state nuclear weapon-free zones that affects the interest of individual small countries. Because in these days, the geopolitical situation depends much on space and time. And space is getting smaller, so the nuclear weapon states, we want that nuclear weapon states do not include these small states in their, let's say, geopolitical rivalry. This is what we're trying to do.
Well, thank you for staying with us. We'll see you next time with more stories and updates. Today we had in our studio Chair of the Blue Banner NGO, Mr. J.Enkhsaikhan Jargalsaikhan, and the founder of the Japanese non-governmental organization, Mr. Yoshioka Tatsuya. Have a nice evening.